members. Well, I hadn't been here for over 20 years. I think ex-council members ought to stay ex-council members. I had the privilege of serving from 1982 to 1992. But I still see Mr. Watry still coming down, not telling the truth, misleading. And let me just read you from a little email that he sent out just recently. From what I read in the newspapers, I believe this was David Malcolm's suggestion. This was written by Mr. Watry. I think Dynergy paid him $20,000 or so to suggest this to the city. And then I think he gets 10% of the sales price. No. Somebody forwarded me this email. So I decided to write the many people that he sent to in this email. I wrote him back. Maybe Peter can enlighten all in this email of how he just makes up lies. I did negotiate the agreement with Dynergy to end their contract as of 12/31/10. Can't Peter accept a gift of time and effort with any grace? Peter writes back to everybody. David is right. This was not a lie, but a joke gone bad. A joke. Does anyone up there consider this a joke about me? He thinks it's a joke, so he can say whatever he wants, and then when it's not true and someone confronts him, it's a joke. I think that that's pretty sick, Mr. Watry. Also, I will say that and the city attorney will attest to, and city manager, the monies that were spent for the attorney to help the team come up with a legal strategy, because the port had written, as is in your staff report, a report saying nothing can be done. We can't do anything. But we thought we could. And we needed the legal advice to figure out how we could do it. That legal advice that this city council authorized crafted the way to end the RMR contract. That plant would not be coming down now. It would still be running if it wasn't for the city taking the aggressiveness of hiring an attorney, coming up with a strategy. And I was lucky enough to work with some good people and go in and meet with Dynergy and negotiate the end of the contract. Something that was great for Chula Vista, Mr. Watry. You weren't there. You didn't help. You didn't help me build the Boys Club and Girls Club in Chula Vista. You didn't help me build the YMCA in Chula Vista. You didn't help me create the South Bay Wildlife Refuge. You hadn't done anything. All it is negativism. We need to work together, people. We need to work together as a team to get that bayfront developed and save the west side of Chula Vista. And we're all fighting. We're all calling each other names. And we're all trying to outposition one another so we can run for mayor or some other office. You know, when I was on the council, we had a guy named Lynn Moore. And Lynn Moore would take us to the woodshed if any of us talked publicly bad about each other or the city, because it was bad for the city. And you know what? The five of you need to start coming together to move the city forward. Let me make a couple comments on the staff report. The city manager pointed out something that should be in the staff report. The transaction that was proposed, that Dynergy actually came to me, one of the representatives here, came to me and said, hey, we think that maybe Chula Vista might be interested, or the port, of taking over our obligations. As the city manager said, the only way it was presented by me is if it was a 100% no-risk transaction to the city. As he said, we must have a bonded bid to tear down the plant, and we must have an insurance policy to cap all costs. If, after doing all our due diligence, that it couldn't have a bunch of money left over, the city could walk for free. You had a free option. That was what was negotiated for you. Now, a lot of people in the community question, maybe that's not a smart thing to do. They have every right to do that. Do I believe a free option? with you guys taking control is a smart thing to have, provided you get the insurance policy, provided that you get the bonds. Yeah, I think that's a pretty smart thing to be able to control your future. And if I was sitting in your chair tonight, there would only be two things I'd be concerned about right now. By the way, I think the new port director, the new chairman of the port, are finally getting things right, moving things in the right direction. Look at the press release and the detail in that press release that came out yesterday.
Mr. Malcolm, I'm going to ask you to tie it up. Well, let's let Mr. Malcolm finish his comments, and then if you
Okay,
respond to
I was
questions.
asked to come. Well, yeah, okay.
Please finish.
Okay, thank you. So the two things that I would try to do, and again, I think the port is really starting to move in a good, solid way. The present contract says that the port can't spend the money, or Chula Vista can spend the money, without Dynergy's consent. Dynergy, we know, is going to be one of two things. They're either going to be bankrupt or taken over by a hedge fund. Neither case is good for the city of Chula Vista. You don't want to deal with a New York hedge fund that will do everything they can to screw the citizens of Chula Vista, nor do you want to be subject to a bankruptcy court. So if I were you, I would order my port commissioner to get control of that $22 million. That $22 million is taxpayer money that came from Sacramento. And what you need to do is direct your port commissioner to have Dynergy sign papers that if they, after that permit is issued, don't start demolition, that you or the port can go out and sign a contract and get that plant down. The other thing, so getting control of the money that Dynergy has, where the port made the mistake is the agreement that I worked on and did was with Duke. They assigned it to a weak company and allowed them to take over control of that money. That's where the mistake was made. But we got to live with that mistake now. And so the mistake ought to be corrected by trying to get control of that money. The second thing I would do is your citizens have paid $42 million to Dynergy to clean up this plant. So not only is there the $22 million, they've collected another $42 million. They haven't set it up in a trust fund. That money can be taken and be gone in a bankruptcy court. You need to go to the PUC, FERC, and whatever you can after you get control of the $22 million and try to sequester and protect that $42 million for the citizens of Chula Vista. Then you can control your future. You don't want to be subject to a hedge fund or the bankruptcy court. You want to be able to, when you order when that permit is issued, to be able to tear down that plant. Remember where the port has come from. The original proposal, and the reason why Laura Hunter, I think, maybe hesitated for a little bit, they wanted 18 months to do an EIR. It took your new port commissioner to go in and explain to them that we didn't need 18 months to do an EIR, that it could be done through working with your city attorney in a shorter environmental process. And the new chairman, Mr. Peters, has bought into that and working for that. New chairman, new executive director, new direction, new motivation. So as a person who lives in San Diego, but obviously went from elementary school all the way through school and grew up here and had my businesses here in Chula Vista, I'm glad I was given an opportunity to come in and help in the RMR. I'm glad it's over, but I guess my thank you note got lost in the mail from Mr. Watry and others for donating my time to help Chula Vista finally end the running of the power plant. Thank you.